Welcome to another live stream. It's late, and I feel like talking about gang stalking, and sometimes I'll do that. I'm a night owl, and you know, I've talked about this before. For targeted individuals, it's not always healthy to think about gang stalking all the time, or even to think about the things that have been done to you. And those triggers are the enemy. Okay, the infiltration into the mind of the targeted individual through traumatic invasion creates associations, and it creates triggers, and it's just something that has a life of its own. It's the gift that keeps on giving. When targeted individuals experience infiltration or they experience gang stalking, that's all it is. It's infiltration into your mind. Those associations are created, and they are connected to things in your everyday life. It's not always just the harassment that you experience. It's not always just somebody, pulling off some street theater, directed conversation, or attacking you at work, or, looking at you, or, briding you, or whatever you're dealing with, whistling, somebody yells at you, you don't know who the hell they are. It doesn't always, require that. Okay. The associations that are created are, sometimes they don't have anything to do with gang stalking. I've talked about that when it comes to 9/11, or you're dealing with, some type of traumatic event, that people remember those things very clearly. They don't have any idea what happened maybe a week before that, or a couple days before that, but they remember everything that happened that day. They remember the date. They remember specific times. They remember what they had for breakfast, what they had for lunch, what the weather was like, what kind of clothes that people were wearing, whatever. The memory is burned into their brain. And like I said, any of those things that are associated with it can be a trigger. So, we'll just say that the individual, will use 9/11. Okay. We'll say that they were cooking, I don't know, toast or something, or whatever, any particular smell that was there. We'll say that the neighbor was mowing their lawn, and they could smell the fuel coming in through an open window, gasoline from that, or maybe they were mowing the lawn or whatever. So that whatever traumatic event surrounds those different environmental stimuli, now those things are going to remind you not only of the event, but of the emotions, the fear, all that stuff that goes along with it. Okay. So, it doesn't take much. And when targeted individuals are out in the world, when they are moving through the landscape, they get attacked, they get traumatized, and all those things, just like 9/11 or the Kennedy assassination or any kind of traumatic event that you can think of that causes that type of infiltration into the mind, because that's what it does. It's like a tattoo. It's like a mental tattoo. It's like a mind virus. You have been invaded. They are not asking permission. They are coming in. They're busting down the doors, and they're setting up shop in your head. Period. They're getting in your head. But they're doing more than that, because now there's a chemical reaction that happens in your body. I'm not going to go into the complex process that involves all those chemicals and different parts of the brain. And you can look into that if you want, because there is a science around this. But those things are very, I don't know, we'll just use the limbic system. Very powerful. Like I said, using the example of maybe the smell of gasoline or a particular type of food that's being cooked, whether pleasant or unpleasant, doesn't matter. And those things have their own little life of associations too. Okay. So now you don't have to experience gang stalking. Somebody doesn't have to use the things that have been, put in your head as far as the sensitization, whether it's keywords, phrases, different little themes, whistling, unorthodox behavior, all that stuff. Yes, it will trigger you, And fortunately, they will do those things. When I say fortunately, what I'm saying is that when somebody does that to you, when they walk up to you and they use that type of technique with direct conversation that's obvious, or they become obnoxious or obvious in whatever way they were attacking you, to you, at least it's logical at that point, whatever emotion comes out of that. And you have the ability to fight that. And it's something that you can control in the sense that, with the exception of things like workplace harassment where you got to be around somebody or whatever. But, you can usually get away, or you have the option. You don't have that claustrophobic reaction like you're, stuck in an elevator with these people and you're never going to get out ever again. Maybe when they go to hell, if they don't repent, maybe that's what they'll experience. I don't know. Good luck with that. But I'm not trying to be negative. That's one of the hardest things about talking about this is not to get angry or frustrated or hateful or what. I was just throwing that out there. But you can get away, okay? But the thing about the associations that are created out of the harassment, like I said, now whatever it was. Concerning the limbic system, whether it's just maybe the smell of gasoline, somebody was mowing the lawn, you were mowing the lawn, somebody was baking bread, whatever. Now that has become an association. And it's connected to the emotions, the fear, the depression, the doom, all those things that are associated with that event. And sometimes these things can go into the subconscious where you have micro associations. And I've talked about the demonic mind control involved in MK Ultra and all this. When you get into that stuff, you are looking at a modus operandi that comes from the spiritual dimension. That's not something that a bunch of Nazi scientists cooked up. They were involved in a lot of that. Operation Paperclip and all those other things are very important to understand, but it came from somewhere else. They got that stuff from the spiritual dimension. Okay. The things that you are dealing with are very sophisticated. Okay. Anytime you're dealing with technology or anything that's come out in the last few hundred years, you're dealing with a dispensation from the spiritual dimension. That's my opinion. When you get into the secret societies, whether it's the Council of 13, the Committee of 300, the 13 families, the Council of 33, the Illuminati, all that stuff, it goes all the way back into that where you have that amalgamation and that connection to the spiritual dimension. Where people are even with witchcraft or whatever, they are contacting spirits. And when you get into the UFO phenomena, there are people who are witches, warlocks, or high-ranking witches they'll pull this stuff off. And they know what's going on. Okay, they know, and I'm not saying that there's not people haven't experienced that kind of thing, but a lot of it is smoke and mirrors, and it's spiritual. Okay. They had a lot of that stuff going on the Skinwalker Ranch and everything. But coincidentally, even when you get into the New Age and stuff like that, they'll start seeing UFOs, and people involved in witchcraft will start seeing that stuff. And then you see this connection. And then when people start having problems or they experience the negative side of that whole equation, whether it's panic attacks or sleep paralysis or other things, or, people are trying to, do astral projection or whatever, the whole thing amalgamates together. And you have this commonality, and when you're dealing with that type of scientific menticide, when you're dealing with the invasion into your mind that is accomplished through this scientific methodology of gangstalking, that stuff is pure evil. Okay, they know what they're doing. Okay, I've referenced biblical passages that involve the fact that people are like vessels. They are clay. Okay. I've had some of these individuals where, a lot of people will say, I don't like that. You talk about demons. Well, yeah, I'm going to talk about it. Okay. Because I've experienced it. I've experienced the witchcraft. I've experienced these things talking to me through people. Okay. I've seen this kind of stuff, and they'll just straight up say stuff like that to me. You're hanging out with somebody or you're doing something, and then all of a sudden, are you really sure you understand the people who are around you? And then you're dealing with it. Like, targeted individuals deal with that reality flip where all of a sudden, all my family members or, people that I've known for a while, they're treating me different. Things are different. The people at work are treating me. What the hell is going on? The whole world is flipped. And it's just unbelievable. It doesn't seem logistically possible, but I've had them come right out and say things to me. Okay, not only they told me things that were going to happen in the future, like clairvoyant stuff, or things that you're thinking about, or they're throwing in your mind and all that stuff. A lot of target individuals deal with that, where they'll swear that these people are reading their mind. Well, that's demonic, in my opinion. And even if there is technology involved in that, that's where it came from. 6 of this, half dozen of the other. It all has that commonality. And you're a game piece. We're gonna acquire you. We are going to get you. And people don't understand, why am I being gang stalked? Why are all these things happening to me? Did I do something? Did I agitate some? Well, I don't know, maybe. There's a lot of ways this can manifest, but intrinsically, you are someone who's created in the image of God, and everybody's going to be processed. Okay? Whether you're short, fat, smart, stupid, whatever color you, doesn't matter. You were made in the image of God, and they have a vested interest to come after you and use you for their purposes, whether it be to coerce people. A lot of target individuals wonder that, well, God, I'm getting my ass kicked in front of everybody. All this is horrifying. Yeah. And the people that have this knowledge and wisdom and who are aware of that stuff, that's there to scare them into submission and not to say anything, to keep them where they are. A lot of times you'll be dealing with people who are in fraternities or in the good old boys society or in different cliques or whatever, and they see what's happening to you, right? But guess what? Not only are people going to be tested, but they're also going to be confronted with the truth, right? Which side you're going to be on, huh? What do you believe? Oh, you're going to believe what Billy, the targeted individual, does. Well, good luck with that. Right? Oh, you want to fight the kingdom of darkness? You do, huh? Oh, you want to stand up for Jesus? Oh, okay. Well, maybe you'll get lucky and you go over to, one of those prosperity churches, and maybe they'll use you for, that and deceive everybody, and then you'll be condemned later for buying into a lie. Everybody is going to be processed, and everybody is confronted with that truth. What is that? When they see the darkness, and these people they're involved in this stuff, they know. Especially the people that are involved in witchcraft or whatever, they find out the devil's real. Okay. There's a lot of stuff that they'll try to amalgamate in that, but ultimately deep down, they know what's going on. And if the devil's real, God is real. And they better damn well hope that, because the lie is a polytheistic mythos involved with the secret societies and so on and so forth, is that, the God Christ and the devil are just like, the Mormon version, where they're just they're equals. It's just like a fight or a battle or something, right? And they've got this scheme, and somehow they're going to get out of this. What's the reality of it? Well, if you're going to go to hell, right? You're either going to work for God willingly and be His servant willingly. I've talked about the illusion of freedom. Everybody's a slave to something, or you're going to go to hell. Okay. And you can choose to do that. You can have like a lot of the things that torment targeted individuals have to do with, all these things that are around them, right? You see people getting away with this stuff, or you see people in the world that seem to have all the blessings and so on and so forth. I don't know if you're a believer, maybe I did the wrong thing. Maybe I messed up. Maybe it's, well, look, all I have is persecution. All I have is torments and trials and all that. Well, you know what? This isn't everything. This isn't the end all be all of who you are. Okay. You look at the mob bosses, or look at the corrupt politicians or whatever, or look at, whatever you want to look at. The charlatans out there in the religious community, they've got all that stuff. But the one thing they have in common is that they're going to be going to hell unless they repent. Okay. But when you're dealing with this stuff, when you're looking at the connections into this modus operandi, this methodology that is used to infiltrate the mind of a targeted individual, you're dealing with straight up demonic mind control. Okay. Yeah, that's where they got it. That's, MK Ultra, all those things. That's where they came up with this stuff, whether they know that or not. Okay. And it's very sophisticated. And like I said, those associations that form in your mind have that reciprocity, and you get triggered. Okay. Sometimes I'll do that. Like I can't sleep. I'm sitting up thinking about stuff, and I'm like, well, I'm going to turn this into something productive, because you can get triggered by things that don't even have anything to do with gang stalking. And that's the problem. Even when you get into the sensitization and that warranted suspicion or the paranoia that the target deals with because of all these things you're anticipating, the world that you live in now is just, it's kind of like a nightmare. What do you do? Right? What's going to happen next? How am I going to, protect myself? How am I going to keep myself safe? Well, you can become obsessed with those things. It's real for you, right? And that's the method. But the other things are going to take you into it, whether you're being harassed or not, right? Those associations are there. It's like a spider web. I've talked about that before. One thing connects to another, and pretty soon you're in this labyrinth of triggers and conditioning. Not only have you been sensitized, not only are you hyper vigilant, not only are you noticing things and probably processing information in an incorrect way, because new target individuals do that. Everybody does it. Everybody who's exposed to this is going to be looking around, wondering what's going on. They're going to look for the hidden meaning. They're going to read into stuff, basically, right? Long story short, you're going to end up reading into things because you're processing it differently. All of a sudden, targets are getting attention from all these different angles. Right? It's all about them. A lot of perps will tease, oh, you think everything's about you. Well, they wouldn't have even thought that. They wouldn't be paranoid about people breaking into their house or tampering with their food or harassing them at work or tampering with their personal property. But now they do, because it's happened. Okay, it's real. It's something that they've dealt with, and they don't really have the option of just, wiping their mind and forgetting about the whole thing, because it was there to put them into that state of paranoia, of hypervigilance, and that state of fight or flight. Okay, and now it has infiltrated the mind, and those associations are there. They've got in there, and they've created the scaffolding. They've created those triggers that will send you in to those emotions, right? And now your job as a targeted individual is to break this down, see the motive. Don't be deceived by the disinformation, in the sense that, like I mentioned earlier, when you're having trouble, or you're getting frustrated, or you're getting harassed, or whatever, and the lateral comparisons around you, that's part of the deception. That's part of the lie of this world. Okay. You're so isolated, dealing with this intense form of persecution, and it's real, that that sense of injustice is going to well up inside you. You're going to see everybody else around you. They're not worried about what you're worrying about. They're not dealing with all these things. It's going to make you feel like a second-class citizen, and the disinformation that comes at targets is going to get them to try to consider that, because ultimately they want you to internalize this as if somehow it's all, not only is it about you, but it's about who you are, right? And they want to change that. They want to form the way you think about yourself, right? That you deserve it. They're going to try and gaslight you. They're going to try and terrorize you and invade your mind. And then eventually, if they can't get you to believe you're crazy, they want everybody else around you to believe that. And then they want the effects to sink in, the associations to take that inevitable chain reaction into amalgamation, which inevitably is going to be connected to your identity. Right. I've talked about the vanity of this world, the pride of life, and so on and so forth. Right. You're constantly looking at things and sizing things up and analyzing the world around you. And it takes a long time to figure out what's really going on here. Right. And people are constantly doing that. Right. They're looking for things that they're attracted to. They are looking for money, for fame, whatever, right? Or they're trying to avoid being on the bottom of the totem pole, because that involves pain and fear and deprivation. And so there's a contest out there. The world is like a jungle, and that vanity is there, right? Because if you're beautiful and rich and smart and whatever, you got a lot. You're going to go places. You're going to be somebody, right? But really, what's going to happen is that's going to be the opposite of that. The beauty becomes vanity. You become vain, right? And that's ugly. So the beauty turns into ugliness. If you're smart, when you give into the wisdom of the construct of creation, which has been hijacked for the most part, right? And what's going to happen? You're going to become an idiot. You're going to become stupid, right? You're strong and independent, right? But you're gonna try and do this without God. You're gonna try and do it in a way that's not realistic. You're gonna become weak, right? It's all a trap. You take God out of any part of the equation of this place that you're in, and He has designed it that way, and it turns into death. It turns into poison. You can take something that's seemingly good, wisdom, or beauty, or all those things that I just mentioned. You take God out of the equation, it's toxic. It's venom at that point, and God's designed it that way. Okay, we need to put Him at the center of our lives, and the enemy around you, they want the opposite. They're going in the other direction. They want to take you with. They have a vested interest in that you have been created in the image of God to do this. A lot of targets, like I said, why is this happening to me? Well, if nothing else, it's because of that. There might be other things. You might be being experimented on. Okay. You might be that vessel of coercion, whatever. But ultimately, you fit into that every time. The puzzle piece concerning that is always there. Okay. And you don't forget that. And when you're moving through the landscape around you and you get these triggers, you have these associations, you can see the motive, you can see what's going on, and you get a reflection of what is behind all this stuff. Whether it's the perps you're dealing with and their neediness, right? Their vile intentions, right? Their murderous, souls that they're trying to, a lot of times targets will deal with that gaslighting. Cam, we're just trying to help you, right? We're just trying to correct you. We're the angels that are helping forming you. We're just being abrasive because that's what we do. Their intentions are not to do that. They'll wink. They'll play little games. I've seen it. I've dealt with them. You'll get to the point where you're ready to kill yourself or freak out. You think you're going to have some kind of meltdown or nervous breakdown, and something happens, and God saves you out of the whole thing, and they wanted to take you down, and God stopped the whole thing. You maybe you passed the test, or maybe God just had mercy on you, and it's just not time yet, and then they'll switch. Right? They were all around you. Their teeth were bared. You could see who they were, and they were nasty. They were hostile, and then the God stepped in, and now they'll wink. Oh, we were just trying to help. Oh, we're not doing. Oh, we're gonna get you, but don't be silly. Don't be silly. Yeah, no, they wanted it. They're murderers. Okay, then you can see the reflection by the things that they're doing. What happens to target individuals when they experience all this stuff, right? What happens to someone when someone breaks into their house and starts tampering with their personal property and starts invading their mind and following them around and playing little games? What happens to them? Well, they start to die slowly, right? They start to experience not only a type of egoic death, but their social life dies, right? They, this whole thing starts tearing the foundations of their existence away from them. It's murder. Absolutely. They want to downplay it. They want to use, a death by 1,000 cuts where it looks like there's low level activity involved in that. But that's the gaslighting, right? That's all that is, right? It's that plausible deniability that surrounds the whole. Come on, learn, and they'll do that to the target. Everybody's got their part. One person will do something, the other person, will do a little bit here, and then, it's like a tag team. And, then, of course, the whole idea when the target finally gets to that point where it's the last, the straw on the camel's back hits and they start freaking out, or they, get angry, or they start having a meltdown. Oh, my gosh, really? I didn't do that much to you, Oh, you've got a hernia. You're stressed out. It was only 14 flat tires in 3 weeks. Come on, de facto. Come on. That's not the only thing you were dealing with. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Now you've got health problems and it's like, it's always downplay. I'm not complaining. I'm just using it as an illustration. And that's always, oh, come on. We were just, banging on your house. It's a little noise campaign, really? But it comes from all different directions. And the whole idea when the target finally starts to experience the effects of that, now it's your fault, right? You're having a hard time at work, or you're having, a type of, a social issue, where you're having a hard time trusting people now, or whatever. You're isolating. Maybe you've become agoraphobic. Well, maybe you need to go see a therapist. No, maybe all you bastards got to leave me alone. How about that? But it's your fault. Sorry about the language, guys. But I've seen all these things. I've seen what happens to targets, and they're accused and they're blamed for all the stuff that's happening to them. And it's all scientifically designed to do that, all the way from the traumatic invasion to the reciprocity of these associations and triggers, and the sensitization of the targets. You get them in a place, eventually they can be gaslighted into internalizing this stuff. It is menticide, okay? Because once all that happens, it's going to literally take a miracle of God, and they know it, which ultimately there's nothing wrong with that, to get this stuff out of your head, right? A deliverance. But, sometimes, and that's the confusing part, where a lot of people don't understand the biblical stuff around this. We're not here to go on a picnic. Okay, the apostles, they died pretty badly. Stephen was stoned, Peter was crucified upside down. You got plenty of examples of the Bible where the Christians up in Rome, they were lit on fire, thrown to the animals in the Roman games. Paul was stoned and whipped and thrown in prison and finally beheaded. John the Revelator was boiled in oil. They couldn't kill him, so they put him out on an island, man. They tried to turn him into a piece of Kentucky Fried Chicken, and it didn't work. I mean, and, it's confusing. That's the whole point, though. And when you're looking at, what's happening, and you look at all these things that you're dealing with, it's not only is it proof of the malevolent evil that's out there, but it's proof of the scientific scheme that is behind it. Look at all these things. Look at the science behind it. A lot of targets will just, it's a game. They're trying to jerk your chain. No, they're trying to kill you in a very slow, methodical way. Okay, then that's what it is. It's like that serial killer like Dennis Rader, that likes to suffocate their victim, and then revive them, bring them back. Let's do it again. I have power over you. We're gonna, and then a lot of the I don't know, the method about this, they're looking at you and they're seeing all the things you're dealing with. Well, we chose, we made the right choice, right? I don't know, man, but I don't want to end up like one of them. I don't know about all this church stuff or God or other. I don't know, man. Look at God's not helping them. That's the whole delusion around you. But he is. He is helping. All you have to do is ask for it and draw near to God. And it may not stop the gang stalking, but he's going to work these things out for your benefit. Right? Your existence isn't the end all be all. Isn't just your life here on the earth. And of course, everybody's led to believe that. Right? We're going to take everything from you. Well, no, you're not. You're taking everything away from yourself. This stuff is pretty much already gone anyway. And if any of you are out there and you're over, 40 or whatever, you know what I'm talking about. You're up there to 40, 50, 60. You're looking at retirement just around the corner. And then after that, who knows? Some people don't even make it that far. I know a lot of people that are not on the planet anymore. They're gone already. And some of them, they didn't make the proper choice. They did not choose to receive the gospel, to receive Christ. And some of them were gang stalkers. I think about it all the time. I'll drive by a place that, that I met them at, or that we used to hang out at, or an old apartment complex or something. I came down to where I'm living now. The first time I came down here, I think it was in 1991 or 92. The gang stalking went overt in 93. There's a lot of triggers around this area. From I think about that, some of those guys are gone. And they used to say things to me. They used to talk about, oh, you made the wrong choice. This, how's that working out for you and all this? Well, you're going to go to hell. Yeah. But I got what I've got now. Well, it's gone now. That's over. I hope it was worth it. That's another thing you got to remember when you're dealing with these people. They're the ones that are really getting screwed on this. It's one thing to be oppressed. It's another thing to be racking this up. He's storing it up for later. That's all that's going on. You're minding your own business. That's part of the negligible attack of this whole thing. You got to remember as a targeted individual is that you're minding your own business. They're breaking all the rules. God is in charge. God is the ruler over his creation, and everybody's going to deal with him. Yeah, the devil's got temporary leeway over everybody. He's here to test, and so on and so forth. And he has a vested interest in processing everyone. Right? You're in a pretty tough trial right now if you're a targeted individual, but at least you see what's going on, unless you've rejected that reality. Right? But after that, well, it's over. You only have, this is your chance to do this. And all those people that I talked about, and there's quite a few of them. Well, as far as I know, they went to the other side in a pretty bad state or condition, unrepentant, hostile towards God, and that's forever sealed up. It's over for them, period. Okay. They're not going to get another chance. Right. And a lot of people will just deceive themselves and, well, I'll just give my life to Jesus at the last minute. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't. Well, I can guarantee it doesn't work that way. And God's very clear. It's not that he's not offering mercy. It's not these people can't repent, but with an attitude like that, that's not going to work. You're just trying to get out of the consequences of it. You don't think God's going to know that? Of course he is. A lot of people are like that. They'll live their life. I'll leave everything to the Catholic Church or whatever. I'll put it in my will, and God will, no matter what happens now, that he'll overlook that stuff. They're not being realistic. They don't know what's going on. And I've talked about that before. If you're a targeted individual, somebody asked me, what do I do? How do I protect myself against this stuff? Well, one of the best things you can do is draw near to God and immerse yourself in sermons, right? A lot of times it's hard to read the Bible. In fact, when I started doing that, I didn't understand it. And it's like that for a reason. God wants people to dig in. He wants people to seek and find and to mine these things out and cultivate a relationship. It's not about having the answers. It's about having a relationship with him, right? The eternal Father. He's the one that made you. Okay. And God is literally creating a family. But the qualifiers to get in the family is faith and truth. But, like I said, reading the Bible sometimes is hard. And, I speculate, but it seems like he picked Paul for a reason. And Peter talked about that. He said, Paul is hard to understand, and people will take his sermons out of context and create all these weird doctrines. And you see that all over the place. Why? Because they're being processed. They're going to deal with the devil. They're going to deal with the tyranny of this place, right? But you want to protect yourself, you do that, right? As far as the directed energy weapons, I've used aluminum foil before. I've used the heavy duty stuff, and that stuff is real too. It was painful, and you don't know what's going on. I had that happen to me in an apartment complex, and I thought I just tore one of my muscles in my back, and it was infected. It was burning. It felt like electricity. It was just painful. I mean, it almost had me in tears. I'm laying in bed. Oh gosh, what did I do to my back? And I got up, moved around a little bit, and it was like, oh, it went away. And I'm like, oh man, maybe it was just a nerve or something. What the hell's going on? I go lay that back down on the bed. Oh, it starts again. And they were moving around, doing stuff. I could hear drills and other things going on underneath the apartment. I was on the second floor. And the guy was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't hear nothing, And I'm like, whatever. And I'm thinking, gosh, you gotta be kidding me. Well, I got up again and it went away. I thought, well, maybe it's the position of my body. Maybe that's all it is. And so I went and laid down, and I thought, well, no. I went out in the living room, put some little comforter down, and I'm laying down now out here, but it's not affecting me. Go back in the bedroom, lay down, and it just, oh man, it's just painful. And I'm thinking, this is getting weird. I got to find out. I laid heavy duty aluminum foil all over the floor in there. Put a little bit on the walls about 2 or 3 feet up. Laid down in bed. I was fine. Not another problem. I mean, what do you think about something like that anyway? Sounds crazy. Target individuals to deal with that. I've had to visqueen off an apartment complex before because fuming. I mean, you want to talk about crazy, and then they'll laugh and they'll put it in the directed conversations, and that you're on the right track because that's another thing that I've talked about when it comes to obvious harassment is that when people do stuff like that to you, keep a mental note of it. How do they know what's going on in your house? I'm not even talking about obscure things that could or general statements that you're I don't know if that was stalking or not, but it could have been. Why are they talking to me? Well, maybe. But when they come up to you and just laugh at you and say something, man, it's like you don't even know who they are, or they don't know anything about you, and they know what's going on, in your house. Maybe in a personal relationship you got, or something they shouldn't know anything. It's things you're thinking about or dream. You're like, man, keep mental note of that because this stuff can go into the area where what they want to do, like I said, with that menticide, with those associations, with that traumatic mind invasion, is to just get you so messed up in your head that you're basically your own enemy. You're isolated. You're dealing with social deprivation. You've been excommunicated, blackballed. You're getting persecution. You're getting bitter. You're feeling the sense of injustice. If you don't know how to process this, you think everything is being stolen from you. You're never going to get another chance. You might be getting, thinking about doing violent stuff or, retribution or what, but it's because you're not processing information correctly. You're not amalgamating these things together properly. You got to do that, but the associations will take you into that. You get sensitized. You start talking to yourself. You're spending way too much time alone. They just put you into that, it's an inevitable chain reaction. And that's what happens to targets. And then you do get nuts. You just start going crazy because it starts driving you that way. But if you don't see what's going on, I mean, it is going to have the maximum emotional impact on you. If you can see what's happening, if you realize that this is not the end all be all of who you are, if you realize that these people are not going to get away with this stuff, they're eventually going to pay. If you realize that the greater part of your existence is after this life or after Jesus Christ returns, Well, you win. No, they lose. Yeah, it sucks, but it's in everything. That's a big, huge reality that a lot of targets out there, they're not aware of that. And I wondered it before. You start wondering, and then if you're a target individual with faith, they'll try to condemn you in your conscience, or trick you into stuff. People talk about the honeypots, or the people that are just playing little games and stuff. They'll try to do that, and the kingdom of darkness will set that stuff up too. And then what? Well, then you feel like, all these things are happening because you failed or whatever, and God is just judging you. And then there's no hope there. Well, I think I was, God is, he's forsaken me. Look at all these things that are happening to me. But that's not true either. Because if that was true, they'd just leave you alone because they already got you. The reason these people out there are not dealing with the stuff you're dealing with, or it doesn't seem like anybody in the world is dealing with all these crazy things like you are, is because they already got them. They're blind. They don't have to persecute them. One of the things that they all have in common is they don't know the truth. They're blind. They're either blind, bewitched, or bewildered. And a lot of targeted individuals, they know what's going on. You see what's happening. You're a danger to the kingdom of darkness because you have knowledge, you have truth. Like I said, the axiom of escaping this labyrinth that you're in is faith and truth. Faith in the truth, faith in Christ, knowledge of the truth. The truth will set you free. You'll see what's going on. God will work all these things out for your benefit, and it's over. You made it. And you're going to go through that, and you have to keep on the path. And God's going to help you with that too. I'm going to go out and see what's going on in the comments. I've been rambling for quite a while. Nicholas Bosman, we got a moderator. Welcome. Bora Bora, awesome. Mr. Beach Walker, wow, you're up late. I didn't expect to see you, but I'm glad you showed up. It's been a hell of a long time since I saw you. I was wondering what happened to you. And you're a moderator as well. Cookie, okay. And we've got Emmanuel Godson, welcome. All right. Let's see what else is going on here. And I'm sure Nicholas and Mr. Beach Walker and all you guys have some good stuff. And so let's see what is going on out there. And it looks like we've got a conversation that I'm not aware of. I never look at the comments when I'm talking. I just ramble on and then kind of bust out and see if I can grab something out of there and see what's going on. Okay. Ryan McCrossan says mental torment is unreal. It is mental torment. Absolutely. And sometimes, in order to get that mental torment, sealed and solidified, they will do something real nasty to targets, man. I've talked about that before. When you get the break-ins or whatever, or the food tampering, it's not always just a psychological game. Sometimes that stuff messes you up, and then you really have the associations and the sensitization and the post-traumatic syndrome, because it's, it involves, serious side effects, pain, illness, dysfunction. I've dealt with that. I mean, in order to, when I was talking about visqueening off a part, I wasn't kidding. I did it. I've got pictures of that stuff, man. In fact, the original picture I had in the GoFundMe account was me in that apartment with visqueen behind me. I mean, I've literally visqueened it off. I had to, and that, it's just, it sounds crazy. You see target individuals making videos with tinfoil all around them. It's not a joke. I mean, some of those guys could be shills. I mean, I'm not going to accuse anybody, but it's real, the stuff you're dealing with. How does it, paranoia is not enough just by itself, the threat of something maybe happening to you, to get someone to do that kind of stuff, to get someone afraid of their plumbing, or afraid to keep food in their refrigerator, or carrying around their hygiene products, or 15 locks on the doors with security cameras on. You got to hurt somebody. You got to scare the shit out of them to get them in a place where they're going to, take the time to do something like that, and take a chance that nobody's going to, you can come up with some creative answers to explain that kind of stuff too. Gee, how many cameras do you need there, dude? Wow. Looks like you got some pretty fancy locks on the door. I think they're going to come in and steal that peanut butter you got in your in your kitchen because you ain't got a whole lot of stuff in here, dude. What do you think they're going to steal? And you're like, well, yeah, well, but anybody who's had those kinds of break-ins, I mean, you know what happens in the middle of the night, times that are vulnerable. They're coming in, move stuff around. You don't know if they've tampered with your food. You don't know what they're going to do. And then you get sick or you experience that. And you don't forget. It gets your attention awful quick because it's painful. It's scary. You don't know what's going on. It's a lot of people talk about having their soda out at work or, whatever, dealing with that food tampering. But what happens after the first time you do it? You don't think anything of it. We'll use a hypothetical example. Maybe at a restaurant, I've had that happen to me where, enjoy, that'll be good. And you think something's going on. They're kind of being smart assy. You think maybe the waitress is having a bad day or whatever. And then all of a sudden, after you eat it or drink it or whatever, then they'll start up, oh, how's that taste? I made it specially for you. And the cook will come out there. You don't know who the hell they are. All these people and they're whisper. They come up. I've had them come right up to the table. Oh, that's going to be good. Hope you got the stomach for it. And I'm just like, what the hell? And then you start feeling it. You get covertly drugged or poisoned, or I hope you're going to be close to the bathroom for the next couple of days. And they'll walk away, and you're like, oh, and you have that sinking feeling, like you're falling off a cliff, and the effects of the drugs, to the toxins coming, and you don't know when it's going to go away. Sometimes it lasts for a long time, causing all kinds of different dysfunction. You might be throwing up. You might have, one time I had stuff and my eyes were all bloodshot and everything. I don't even know what it was. It was just evil, it affects the way your body functions. I'm not even going to get into that, but it's fear at that point. Now, then after that, after you get hit with something like that, man, and I've talked about, targets will deal with that where their stalking changes or whatever. They might wait a while too. You put your toe in the water, you start walking out, and you start taking chances here and there. And then, somebody freaks you out. I was at the Five Guys burger thing one time, and I was, I'm just going to get a burger, the hell with it. It was happening to me all of a sudden at all the restaurants. It's creepy how it works too. You're like, well, I know these people, they probably don't even know each other. What's going on? And they're messing with you. You're trying to order something through the drive-thru. Oh, it's you. Oh, we got a special order for you. And you're like, oh, just cancel it. But you got to go through the drive-thru. There's people behind you and everything. But I got to get that burger. And they're like, oh, you're going to like that. Oh, take a bite right now. Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell? And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to eat it later. So I walk outside with this. The dude followed me out to my car. Yeah, but I made it especially for you. Oh, come on. I want to see you take a bite. I'm like, this dude's really pissing me off, So I'm like, whatever, yeah. And it's, you're tempted to, kick somebody's ass but you don't, a lot of targets at first they're tempted to do stuff like that until you realize the network that you're dealing with. You can't afford to react. Your goal when you're being stalked and harassed is to give absolutely no reaction at all, to make it home at the end of the day and to cancel all this stuff out, neutralize it, make it to live another day, because a lot of these damn gang stalkers and these people doing are not gonna. And when they're gone, it's going to be over for them. Right. And, I've talked about the fact that you're like bait. These people are being condemned. They want to get you, the spiritual dimension. They're going to kill two birds with one stone. They're going to come after you and they're going to condemn them. And the whole thing is wrapped together and you put a nice little bow on it, kick it into hell. That's what they want to do. They want to take you with. But, for you, if you know that, you have faith and you know what's going on, you can process all this, you can see what's happening. Well, you can use it to your advantage. Right. It's just, a way to prove your faith. It's a way, once you're dealing with all this tyranny, for them, well, it's different. Right. They're just racking it up. right? And every time they attack you and they don't get anything, they're doing it for nothing. And it's eventually going to weigh on their conscience. And the whole time what's happening. It's not that's the good news. It's not that you got to have that type of mentality. Oh, well, you're going to get me screwed later for doing that to me. But it's true. It is. I mean, it's not that you have to be glad about it, but it is. And moving through your landscape as a target, deflecting these things, neutralizing them, realizing, what's really going on, and knowing that you're going to eventually come to the end of this whole thing. It's going to be over. All of it's going to be gone eventually. All this is going to be reformed. The world, God's creation, all that stuff is going to be revamped. Okay, this is just I don't know. It's like the medium of what's going to come out of it, and people have that choice whether to serve God or just move away from Him and try to get out of this whole thing. They're going to end up just gone. They're going to end up they're not going to be part of the life and the good things that God has planned for those that choose to follow Him and resist. But that they're going to be dealing with that. Let me go back into the comments. Holger Ritter, welcome to the live stream. Okay, I'm going to go back in here. Okay. Mr. Beachwalker says, TSA whistleblowers. Yeah. I had to quit watching the news for a while. It's so ridiculous. Okay, I'm just reading through the comments here. Well, looks like you, oh my gosh, we had a little conversation. I'm going to stay out of that one. Targeted assistance. Well, welcome to the live stream. You're welcome. Okay, Nicholas Boserman says, yeah, I've had an apartment looking like a Dexter kill room before. I know, yeah, it's true. That is what I was thinking too. I was like, somebody's gonna come in here, like the landlord, and they're gonna think I'm like Dexter, man. And I was like, yeah, come a little closer, that's basically exactly what it looks like too. That's hilarious, dude. Dexter kill room. Okay, let's see here. You guys have any questions? Oh, wow, that was way up in the comments. There's a bunch of comments here. Let me go through some more. It took a while for you guys to get in here, but it's almost 2:30 in the morning where I am, Central Mountain Time. Nicholas Boserman says, wouldn't tinfoil help the signals? No, it wouldn't. Depends on what you're dealing with, though, right? I mean, you wrap your phone up in tinfoil, you're not going to be doing anything with it. You can take that reflective stuff. I can throw my phone in one of those delivery bags that's got all that tinfoil reflective stuff off, and it'll go offline, man. So especially if you're dealing with directed energy weapons or something like that, it's not going to go through that, man, unless there's something that I'm not aware of, or it's coming from a different thing, or you're dealing with something that's demonic technology or something else, or an implant or who knows. But if you're dealing with a directed energy weapon, and especially microwave stuff or whatever, that's not gonna you're not gonna be able to go through tinfoil or metal or reflective. You're not gonna be able to do that. And I've talked about that before. If you think you're dealing with something like that, try it, because you're probably dealing with something else if that doesn't help. There's a lot of technology we're unaware of, radio waves and stuff like that. But I'm going to tell you, man, like I said before, when you amalgamate this stuff together, you're dealing with a dispensation from the spiritual dimension to mankind to have all these technologies. It was talked about in the book of Daniel, that knowledge will increase and men will run to and fro. And it's not a coincidence. And I've talked about all the biblical prophecy all the way back from the Garden of Eden up until now. And the Dead Sea Scroll calendars, there's 3 2,000-year ages. We're in the last 49 years, 10 jubilees, 400 or 500-year increments, and they're on target, man. I mean, we're moving right through this whole thing. We're almost at the end. Actually, we are at a very privileged time in history. Seriously. I mean, we could literally visibly see the Lord Jesus Christ return. Okay. I mean, a lot of people have talked about that throughout the ages. And when Paul wanted to go to Spain, when he was preaching, he thought he was literally fulfilling, the Great Commission. He didn't know, he didn't know if it was going to happen in his lifetime or not. But we have all these prophecies. We have all of it. Now the book of Daniel has been opened up in ways that never were possible until now. And Israel is regathered. All the desolations, and the hardening and the judgment that was talked about in Deuteronomy is almost completed, literally. And we're moving into that final stage where the final beast, which is basically the Ottoman Empire revived down there in the Middle East, is going to revive, and it's going to be a huge problem. And we're going to be dealing with the Antichrist. There's going to be signs and wonders. There's going to be lying signs and wonders. There's going to be a lot of things happening within the next 50 years, according to that time frame. And this is wild, man. It's one thing to be targeted. It's another thing to be dealing with this stuff. When you have faith and hope, in the sense that, I mean, you're dealing with the kingdom of darkness, guys. Yes, there's technology, okay, but it came from somewhere, and you have to figure that out. So if you're dealing with even V2K or something like that, it might not be the government that's after you. It might not be the CIA. It might not have anything to do with a human origin. It might be something demonic. It might be because people always think of hocus pocus and abracadabra, and demons, and we're gonna, but that's not really necessarily what they are. And there's different beings in that landscape. There's the unclean spirits, the familiar spirits. There's the principalities and powers. There's different kinds of beings, and there's a hierarchy. Okay, the unclean spirits, those are the ones that you'll see typically like on the movie Exorcist or something, right? That's, those are different. Those are like disembodied, half human, half angel entities that died after the time of the flood or around that time. And they're basically, allowed to roam around until the return of Christ, where they're all going to be put into the abyss for a time period, or for that 1,000 years, they're going to be released again. Okay, to test the people on the earth that grew up during that millennial reign of Jesus, right? Where he is, ruling with a rod of iron on the planet. That's 1,000 years. We're 49 years away from that, or around that time. Nobody knows the day or the hour. But what they do is, they possess people, they oppress people. A lot of the things that target individuals deal with are demonic. Okay, it's not always the government coming after you, man. That always frustrates me. Yes, that happens, but I think it's a hell of a lot more rare than people give credit for. Well, and it's hard to tell though, because the thing that really pops into the minds of targets is, well, how, who's got the resources to pull this off? Got to be the government. Well, the government's probably involved, but it's not just that. And, sometimes they, a lot of the targets, they're calling up the fusion centers or whatever. They're like, they might not have any idea who you are. They might not know you from Adam, but the target is convinced it's got to be the government. Every helicopter that flies over, every time they see a drone, every time they get a bell tone or something, that happens. That happens to me. That happens to a lot of targets, or they're dealing with something. It's like, they're looking for vans with, directed energy devices. Sometimes they do that kind of stuff, or they're trying to figure out where the implant is. Sometimes it's just a straight up demonic attack. And it's like I said, they've got technology. That's where all the stuff comes from. Targeted assistant says, I don't date anymore. That's obsolete, and a perp tried to pick me up today with no back license plate, like I'm going to get in the car with a random stranger. Yeah, I wouldn't advise that. And dating is very complex for targets. And I've talked about, how the desolation and deprivation plays into what you're dealing with as a target individual, and it sucks. One of the great blessings that we have is a place like this to get together and share what's going on and realize that there are other people out there who are dealing with this stuff. But when it comes to that, you have to be realistic. And it's like I just talked about, when you're dealing with the demonic, aspect of this, or people being paid or involved in something, people can be manipulated. Like I said at the beginning of the video, they're like clay. And you have to be realistic about that. You get your hopes up, you meet somebody, and it's like, oh, I can trust this person, or, well, maybe, I don't know. But, you're going to find out that they're just, they're like that. They're just clay, and they are dealing with powerful, very scientific, evil, malevolent entities that are running around everywhere. And there's a hierarchy of them, and you can't see them. It sounds crazy, but it's true. And they will influence people. They will use things that are invisible and undetectable to make them moody, or make them hate you, or make them jealous of you, or make them cantankerous and mischievous, or whatever. And that's just the people that might not even know what's going on. And then the other individuals who are, hooked up into the witchcraft, or, the fraternities, or they've, literally willingly sold out to Satan. They're, that's, yeah, good luck with that. And they're going to be sneaky about it. But at the end of the day, who are you going to trust? Well, you can trust anybody you want, but you have to remember they're just people, and they're going to be manipulated. And you can see that over and over. As a targeted individual, one of the most unbelievable aspects of what you're dealing with is the magnitude of people who are turning against you. All right. You got a target on your back. You are literally, targeted, and you're going to deal with that harassment. You're going to deal with the mischievousness. You're going to deal with that demonic manipulation. Not all these people can just be getting paid. Sometimes that happens. I've seen it happen. Okay. But it doesn't always work that way. And when you get in a relationship and you start putting all your eggs in one basket, you're setting yourself up. Right. But you get lonely. Right. You're forced into that scenario where you're either going to deal with something bad or nothing. And I've made that choice. I mean, I've even hung out with people that I knew were perps, because I was just so lonely and I couldn't take it anymore. Back when I started dealing with this stuff, it seems like everybody, not everybody's, individually, but it's, as a general statement, there's just so many people involved in this kind of stuff. It doesn't seem like there's really anywhere you can go as a target where you're not going to deal with it unless it backs off or changes. And so you just kind of get used to it. It's like the people that believe that their mind is being read, or, some people go crazy and they can't handle it. They'll turn to drugs or alcohol or whatever. They'll just, go out in the middle of nowhere, or they'll disappear. But there's people out there that just get to the point where they don't care. I was like that. Because, you deal with weird stuff, and it's like you think people are watching you all the time. I just got to the point where I didn't give a shit. I just got that really freaked them out. They try and mess with me. Oh yeah, that's pretty funny. And they just look at me like, it doesn't freak you out? No. You don't know the family I grew up around. You don't even want to know the people I grew up around, man. And you get comments like that from the perps too. Is I don't even know how you do this. And you'll freak them out. You can learn you know, you can gain their respect. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with being, fearful or whatever. That's just a natural reaction to what you're dealing with. But if you can get to the point where you don't care, if you can see the futility and the fickleness of all this, right? And when people come up and harass you or try and pull directed conversations off on you, it's amusing. Literally. I mean, you can literally be amused by this stuff. And when that happens, then they really have to get evil. That's when they do the fuming or the poisoning or the destruction of your personal property. Because it's that mental torment is not really accessed by the psychological games anymore. You figured it out. Right. That's one of the main reasons why I want to do this, is to help the new targets. They have so much fun with the new targets, just freak you out. Oh my gosh, they're reading my mind. They knew what I was doing in a room with no windows, covered by tinfoil, and I was out in the middle of the country, and somehow they knew. Or that that worker at the grocery store, the person at the gas station, knew what I was going to be doing. They knew I was, no, I didn't tell anybody. They knew. How'd they know? And it just freaks the people out, man. And then you got all these shills out there that are giving people disinformation, tell them to shave their head and do all this. And, it's crazy. You make it through the first 2 to 5 years of this whole thing, man. You need to get a medal, because a lot of people, a lot of targets don't make it, man. Strange Maine, welcome to the live stream. Sorry I didn't see you. You said the Catholic Church is the worst, huh? Okay. And that was a little while ago. I'm just kind of looking through these. And I'm assuming you're talking about different things here. I'm going to kind of go through and look at some of the context of what you're talking about. Well, they've got a doctrine or a set of doctrines that's not really biblical. Okay. I'm not judging anyone. I'm just observing how they break down the Bible and interpret it. For example, they think Peter was the first pope. Upon this rock, I'm going to build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. That's when Jesus said, "Who do you say I am?" And Peter said, "You're the Christ." And he, of course, he said, "My Father in heaven revealed that to you." And so, but they were sitting at the foot of Mount Hermon, right? And that was the area of Bashan, which was where the Watchers fell. And there was a rebellion, and it was known as literally like a porthole or the gates of hell, right? That's where the Mount of Transfiguration was. And that's right before Jesus sent out the 72, which had to do with him taking back the nations, which was a prophecy from Psalm 82. God rise up and take the nations. That's when the principalities and powers were judged, and their immortality was revoked, and they're going to die like men, like people, like us. And when God divided up the world or the nations, he divided them up, and either you're going to get it on the Masoretic or the Septuagint, and it's either 70 or 72. And so that's when Jesus, because he had the 12 apostles, and then he sent out 70 or 72, depending on which one you look at, out into the Gentile territories, and to proclaim the kingdom of God was at hand. Right? Why was that? That's Jesus picking a fight. That was right after that. And they came back and said, we had power over the demons and everything. And Jesus said, yeah, well, I saw Satan fall from heaven like lightning. And they didn't catch on. They didn't, you think they would have asked who this guy was, because the whole thing was obfuscated in the sense that the Pharisees and the Sadducees, who adopted the Babylonian calendar, the lunar calendar, and they got rid of the prophecies of God coming incarnate with the sign that the virgin would have a child, or someone who'd never had sex would be pregnant. And that's talked about in the Dead Sea Scrolls too, that you're not supposed to kill her because it's literally a sign, and that would be the Messiah, the seed of the woman talked about in the Garden of Eden. That was Jesus, right? They lied about all that stuff. They covered it up. They went over to the lunar calendar, the judicial hardening of the Jews after they violated Deuteronomy 17 and all the other things in Deuteronomy. Well, they were under that veil of Moses, or that blindness. But part of that was the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and they didn't know what was going on, and so they didn't really recognize who Jesus was. But that was really what was going on there. So they say, the Catholic Church will say, well, Peter was the first pope. He wasn't. Okay. That had nothing to do with anything. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. The apostles had authority. And as soon as they left, and Paul said that, he said, once I'm gone, wolves will creep in and introduce doctrines of demons and heresies and all that. And he mentions, forbidding people to marry, which is one of the things that the Catholic Church did. They forbid their priests to marry and stuff like that, or to eat meat. What do you do? In the Catholic Church, there's that time where you don't eat meat and all that stuff. It's obvious. You see all these things there where they're into idolatry or whatever. So I'm not trying to bastardize any of them. But the point is what happens when you have spiritual involvement, whether it's the Freemasons or the Rosicrucians or some type of pseudo-Christian organization. The demons are there. And what's going to happen? Well, bad things are going to happen. People are going to be manipulated. A lot of people talk about getting gang-stalked in church. Yeah, they're going to be there waiting for you. That's prime ground. The gospel is being introduced. There's things about the Bible being communicated. Of course, they're gonna put very high-ranking agents in those places. And it's like witchcraft. They'll put people in there from there too. I've heard that from individuals involved in witchcraft, that they will send people to be, infiltrate churches and stuff like that. Let's go through some more here. And I'm going to jump way up here in the comments and see what else is going on here. And Mr. Beachwalker says, Jesus is going to come back, kick butt, and take names and remake everything. Absolutely. Okay. All right. So Targeted Assistant says, I just can't believe they actually do that. I thought this was no-touch torture. Well, no-touch torture involves a lot of different things. Directed energy weapons would be something that would be obfuscated, so it is kind of it would be considered a type of silent attack. And I think even people with Havana syndrome, I think the doctors call it something like that, where they will look into, what's going on with somebody. They'll be experiencing symptoms and they'll have the sequelae of that. And rather than, because they have to rule everything else out. And it's because a lot of doctors were just saying, wow, we don't know what it is. Maybe you got early Alzheimer's or whatever. But they can't really deny that. And they'll say it's you experience a type of silence attack. It's no-touch torture. It is. But, a lot of this is psychological. But they will poison people. They will covertly drug them. They'll reach out and do things to you. Oh, yeah. Because that's how they traumatize you. Some targets, they don't have to. Some of the people, they'll just pull that stuff off like I talked about earlier, because it starts out subtle. You can go in stages with that, where you will deal with the personal info that's just kind of light. You get people making comments, or they'll have facial expressions, or do some street theater, or talk in code, or something's going on, but you don't know what it is. And then it'll move up into more personal information and things happening that people shouldn't know about. The directed conversations will become more intense. They might direct things at you involving different themes and even threaten you a little bit. There'll be character assassination going on. It might even involve some vandalism and little things, we're going to drive you crazy, or, cancer, or we're going to, poison you, or I think, people who do this or that should be killed. And you think people have started a rumor about you, but you're not really sure. And then you move up into the more aggressive level of that, where they're breaking in. They're covertly drugging people. They're moving stuff around in their apartment and also putting things in their food. They're using synergistic poisoning plots that are basically impossible. If you go to the doctor, or try and get things tested like your food or whatever, they're not going to find anything, right? They're going to accuse you of doing street drugs and, doing it to yourself, looking for attention. And there's a lot of gaslighting involved in that whole, scenario, because when you use a synergistic chemical combination to get that type of reaction, whether it's I don't know, like a drug or, some type of toxin or something like that, a negative effect, they're all melded together. So you can have somebody come over to your house and try and gaslight you. Oh, I'll eat something out of your fridge. And they don't have the other chemicals that have been introduced to make it toxic. You have to have maybe 2 chemicals or 3 or 4 different chemicals mixed together in order to create that reaction. The person's heart might start beating rapidly. Their skin might feel like it's burning. They'll get nauseous, sick, diarrhea, pain, whatever. There's a lot of things that can happen. There's a lot of things they can do, but it's not going to, just one of the chemicals or something, that's probably in the food or something. It's not going to do anything to someone unless they've been exposed to those other chemicals, or they'll tamper with a cigarette pack, right? And because you can use the things in someone's habitual life to pull that off. If you drink alcohol or you smoke cigarettes, a lot of chemicals, and tobacco, or especially when you smoke, there's like 2,000 chemicals that are produced or something like that. I can't remember what it is. Ridiculous amount of stuff going on there. You mix that together with something else, or maybe a type of energy drink that's got a lot of, I don't know, potassium in it, mixed with something else, and then what happens? Well, somebody tampered with my cigarette pack, and they'll do that. They'll break in and do something, and you're like, I don't know, maybe it was like that. I never noticed it. And then you'll smoke a cigarette, and you'll have that where you feel like you're going to have a heart attack or something will happen. You'll have a reaction, and you'll swear it's on the cigarettes, and you'll take them to the cops, or you'll have your doc, you'll take them to the hospital, whatever you're going to do, or you open your mouth, and then the perp or somebody who didn't even know what's going on. Well, I don't know. Are you sure? Here, I'll take one. You've been acting kind of crazy. Hell, you don't want those cigarettes? I'll take them. Yeah, you're whacked. Shit, that's $8 a pack. Here, give it to me. And they'll smoke one, and nothing will happen to them. And you're like, oh, man, maybe I am crazy. No, you're the victim of a synergistic plot. That's what you are. And they'll invite you over for dinner. They might even poison a barbecue or something like that. I've seen that happen before. But, to the other people, the chemical's not going to affect them. It's just going to affect you. And most target individuals are not privy to this kind of thing, and they'll be used to gaslight them, right? And then what's going on around them? Oh, you're crazy, and they'll have the shills and the other gaslighters and stuff around that target, and they, you just need to take your pills, you need to take your medicine, maybe we got to put you away. Why are you, boy, I can't believe you accused me of gang stalking you. There's so many games you can play as a target. Yeah, it's no touch torture until it's not. They will touch you. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Oh, we got a whole bunch of comments I didn't see. I thought I was at the end of it. Okay. Strange Maine, welcome to the live stream. Sorry I didn't give you a shout out there. Just Me Heidi, oh, welcome. Yeah, Just Me Heidi says, stay off the dating apps. That's a breeding ground for narcs, perps, and psychopaths. Yeah, it is. The internet is good for that. Nicholas Boserman says, I tested positive for E. I'm assuming that's ecstasy, and I've never done the drug knowingly. Yeah, I've seen a lot of targets get that one. In fact, I took a drug test when I had an attack back in 2021. I was like, wow, because you don't know what it is, right? You don't know what the hell's going on. You don't know what you're dealing with, and you want to, you can get a drug test for like $20. And it tested positive for E on mine too, ecstasy. And I was like, man, that's weird. But I don't, I think it's mixed with something. I think there's something out that they give to targets or they use in a fuming thing or something that tests positive for that. I don't know. I'm guessing because you just don't know what they're doing. But from what I've heard of ecstasy, what I experienced had nothing to do with that. You know, in other words, I've seen people on ecstasy and they looked like they were having fun. I was not having fun. Whatever it was that they got me with, it was evil, and it might come out and test positive for that, but I think it's something else. So I don't know. I haven't figured that mystery out, but a lot of targets will say the same damn thing. And every time they do a drug test, it always shows up positive for that. Nothing else, though. Unless it's positive for meth. I've seen that one, too. And they're not doing it. Okay. Well, you guys want to ask me a question? If you did, I apologize. I'm looking to see if anybody asked me one here, but it's hard to go through all these comments. Ryan McCrossan says the government has the persecuting power. The government has been given the sword. And that could be, connected to another comment that I'm not seeing. Well, that's true, though. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of evil stuff going on in the government. And I've referenced that before. In my opinion, the New World Order is far more evil than the kingdom of the Antichrist because they know about Jesus and they are fighting him willingly. When you get into their religious beliefs, like I've said before, it's like a polytheism. And they believe that they've joined Satan's army basically to fight Christians and to fight that to have that rendezvous with destiny against the oppressive God of Israel. At least that's how they look at it. The Antichrist, as far as anything that I can gain about the book of Daniel and how it describes him, he's gonna speak things against the God of Israel, right? But he's going to believe that he's working for the true God. He's not going to, think he's working for Satan. A lot of people have presuppositions about the Antichrist. The Bible describes him very specifically. He's not going to regard the God of his fathers. He comes out of the lineage of Ishmael and Esau. He used to, they used to worship the God of Israel. And then, of course, that's where the Muslims, that's where Islam comes from. He's not going to regard the desire of women. Some people have speculated, is that guy going to be, homosexual or no? That's talking about the desire of Hebrew women, which was originally, like I said before, was obfuscated by the Pharisees and the Sadducees to bring forth that seed of the woman, to be the one, to be like the mother or the one chosen by God to bring forth the Christ, right? Or the Melchizedek 11Q13 prophecy of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the king of the Zadok priests, or the teacher of righteousness, king of righteousness, right? He's not going to believe in that. He's not going to believe in a Jewish Messiah. In fact, when you get into the Antichrist, they believe into the Dajjal, who's the evil guy. That's their Antichrist, is going to come back riding on a white donkey through the sky, which, of course, when Jesus returns, he's going to be on a white horse. And you can see the parallels. They also worship an image down in Mecca, which, of course, when you get into the cosmic geography of the Antichrist, what's written all over that shrine up on the Temple Mount? If any of you guys ever look at a picture of Israel, you always see that big gold dome up there on the Temple Mount, which is the true meaning of Armageddon, which is actually Harmageddon, because there is a breathing mark in the Greek. Right, so there's no H sound, so it's actually Harmageddon, but when you break it down, it's Harmogay, which is the Mount of Assembly, the battle of gods and men. What's written all over that? God has no son, Jesus was just a prophet, a denial of the Trinity, some very vile things, which is basically the definition of the Antichrist. The presupposition about the Antichrist is that he's going to be some Damien Thorne, evil guy like in Hollywood. He's going to be really smart and get the whole world to take a microchip and create this religion. Well, this is not necessarily the biblical explanation for him. and he's going to have a false prophet. As far as I can tell, it's going to be Islam. When you get into, like I said, the division that happened at the Tower of Babel, the first kingdom after God divided up the nations was ancient Egypt. When you get into the Illuminati or the Freemasons or whatever, they believe in things like Nimrod, and they're the lineage of those angelic beings and so on and so forth, the hierarchy of the world that started in ancient Egypt. You get the pyramid, the all-seeing eye, all that stuff, and then it moved into ancient Assyria, Babylon, Media, Persia, Greece, Rome, the Ottoman Empire. When you get into the book of Daniel, you can see the dream of Nebuchadnezzar broken down, starting out with Babylon, leaving out the first two kingdoms or heads of the dragon. So it started out in Babylon, Media, Persia, Greece, Rome, and then the feet of iron and clay, which is actually a two-part kingdom that is destroyed and then revived. And in 1923, the caliphate was taken down, which is a head, and then now it is being revived. Okay. And remember, John the Revelator said, and that was during the Roman Empire, that it once was, now is not, and is yet to come. So when you're talking about Mystery Babylon, people will say, well, it's coming out of Rome. Well, that would contradict what he said. He said it is now is not, and it is yet to come. That was during the Roman Empire. If that was correct, he would have said it is now, it will not be later, and it'll come back. Okay, so it's not Rome. There's something else going on there, and that includes the two-part kingdom, which is talked about in Revelations, which the eighth head comes out of the seventh. So there's actually 8, but it's only 7. It's just one of the heads had a deadly wound. A lot of people will talk about the Antichrist getting shot in the head, or a lot of people were talking about Trump fulfilling that. Now he's the Antichrist or whatever. That's not what it's talking about. The heads are kingdoms. Ancient Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Media, Persia, Greece, Rome, the Ottoman Empire, a two-part kingdom. Okay. And he's going to he will honor the God of forces, the God of fortresses, which is the God of war, translated, which is Allah. And on the Temple Mount, you have the Al Askabos, which has a Qibla wall. All of them have Qibla walls. And they used to actually point down towards Petra. Now they are pointing towards Mecca. So, even if you're just like a Muslim and you have the app on your phone, you can bow down to that thing no matter where you are in the world, because it has a GPS deal on it where it acts like a makeshift Qibla wall. They all point towards the image. Okay. And the shrine was erected exactly 1,271.5 years after the sacrifice ceased up in that area around Jerusalem. In 583, the temple was destroyed in 586. So when you take that away, that's 688 AD, which is the midpoint of when that temple, that shrine, was erected on the cosmic geography down there in Jerusalem. And then in 706, they finished the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and that was the one with the Qibla wall, and that is in the middle of a 7, which is 7 times 360 lunar calendar converted into solar years, which is 2,520 converted to 2,484. So when the Jews returned after the Babylonian exile in 536, all you have to do is add 2,484 years, and it takes you right to 1948. You couldn't miss it if you tried, right? So you have all that stuff there. And, when you're dealing with this whole thing, it's like I said, it gets pretty exciting because you see all these things happening. And like I said earlier, we're on the last, 50-year stretch of this whole thing. Who knows exactly when it's going to take place, but it's not that far away. Okay, let's see what else is out there. All right, it looks like this thing is stalled out a little bit. I'm trying to scan through the comments. All right. Well, I was asking for a question. Anybody have one? Holy Water, welcome to the live stream. Okay, well, I'm waiting for a question. Any kind of question will do. Okay, looks like we got one here and I missed it. Targeted Assistant says, how do you get your live with your picture throbbing? Okay, well that would be StreamYard. So if you go on StreamYard, create an account, you can do lives, and you can pick, a picture of yourself and just pick an avatar like that. Rather, because I can't go live on YouTube anymore. Once I started to get 60 or 70 people in there, and I was getting like 1,000 to 2,000 views. Somebody shut me down. Actually, it wasn't YouTube; it was something else. I'm not even going to go into that. But I did a profiling video on the perps, and I must have hit a nerve, And now I can't go live on YouTube. So what are you going to do? It is what it is. We could talk about perps. I suppose we could talk about those characters. I'm going to see if I have a question here. Day and Night wants to know how old I am. I'm over 50, but I'm not 60 yet. Barely over 50. Well, Cookie asks a question here. Any ideas of how to block evil spells or demonic energy directed at you? Well, yeah, there's only one way to do that, period. And there's a lot of explanations out there that are just simply ridiculous. But, you do anything to make it stop. And the confusing aspect is a lot of times what will happen is targets will get information, or even people who are believers or whatever. It's like the Catholic stuff we talked about earlier. They've got the relics and holy water and all that other kind of stuff. And that stuff is ridiculous, but the demons will back off and get them to believe it. Or people will burn, sage or, something else. And the demons will play a little game with them. Right. So they'll think it's working. That's one of the things you got to watch out. Oh, but it worked. It worked really good. And then the demon was scared of the Holy One. No, it wasn't. It wasn't scared of it. It wants you to believe that, because then you got your faith in something that's ridiculous. Okay. When it comes to, dealing with witchcraft, all that stuff is real. And I've talked about that before. The people involved in this stuff are really the ones that are bewitched, because it takes spiritual fingers to pull this stuff off. If you're being attacked demonically, and they're using puppets like, witches or warlocks, or people involved in the occult, and they're around you and they're saying things to you. When you get around them, you can feel it. That's the demonic. Those are demons attached to them, whether they're possessed or whether, they're just following them around or oppressing. I don't know. But that's what you're feeling. It has nothing really to do with the individual, other than that they are connected to them, and they are their willing servants, or they've been hijacked or, taken over by these things. Okay. So when you're dealing with the spells and stuff like that, it's similar to what I was just talking about. They will do. I've had a lot of people do that to me, and they will come up and try to put a curse on you, or they'll steal something like hair or whatever. They'll come into your house, they'll try to take clothing, or they'll do something to your house or whatever. And the demons will attack you, and then they'll have the people attack you and say, so we put a spell on you, or you'll get a little direct conversation, or they'll freak you out. But then now you think you're dealing with a human. It's a witch. I've got to go see the Catholic priest because there's a witch after me, or I got to find the counter spell or the remedy. I've got to, put this concoction together to deal with the witch or the warlock or the spell or whatever. But that's not going to work. They might let you believe it's working. You got to do some reverse Santeria or something. All those are just traps. The thing you need to do, not only for the demonic realm, but for witchcraft or whatever, is to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. Okay. And if you're a new Christian, I wouldn't recommend you just picking up the Bible and trying to read it because you're not going to understand it. Okay. It takes time. In fact, I'll put another link to my sermon channel up here because I do talk about that on my other, it's called Sermon Seeker. And I've only got like 34 or 35 sermons up there, but I do talk about this stuff. I don't talk about gang stalking. I talk about demonic oppression, but I have other things, and you do well to learn some of the stuff that I talk about. Tongues. I talk about false doctrines. I talk about Christian deconstruction. I talk about demonic attack. I talk about demonic oppression. I talk about aliens, all that stuff. But you want to immerse yourself in sermons, and just go through and just draw near to God in that way. And you want to pray and ask Jesus to help you out. Right? It's okay to pray to Jesus. It's okay to ask for help. And don't get discouraged if you're targeting this. Sometimes you have to battle this stuff. If you hear a testimony of someone and they say, well, I prayed and I got delivered from this and it was instantaneous and I've never had a problem since, and a money tree grew up in my backyard and I've got brand new cars and $2 zillion and everything's fine and I never get sick, and they're lying. Okay, either that or there's something weird going on there, because that's not what's happening. That's part of the delusion. That's part of the manipulation and the construct that is used to discourage real Christians and kill their faith and make them believe that God is not blessing them and so on and so forth, because that's not realistic. So if it doesn't work right away, keep going. Fight. That is the only way that you're going to win. Don't start screaming and trying to rebuke demons and cast them out of your house and, get a squirt gun full of holy water or get some kind of amulet or start burning sage or anything. No, you just draw near to God. Don't start yelling and trying to, get demons out of your house or whatever. Just draw near to God and pray and just learn things and try to help other people with things. As you have the ability to do that. And I've talked about, it'd be good for targets in the capacity that they have out there, especially some of you guys like Mr. Beach Walker or other people like Nicholas Boswell. Start studying the Bible, start doing things, or use the knowledge that you have to talk to target individuals to help them out, to have some reciprocity and an impact, even if it's just like that starfish. You can't save all of them, but you can walk along the beach and you can pick a couple of them up and throw them back. If that's all you got, it's enough, because it's going to matter if it, you process the world from your point of view. Okay, and everything that happens to you, it might not matter to other people, but it matters to you. And there are a lot of targets out there that do have talent, they do have wisdom and knowledge, and if nothing else, if you don't know that kind of stuff, at least share your experience. I think Nicholas Bosserman has done that, and other people have done that, and that blesses people. Even just a couple videos. Well, I'm afraid to speak. I'm a practice. I'm doing a live stream right now, and I used to have a hard time with this stuff. When I started doing this channel, I had to make videos, and it took me quite a while sometimes, just to think that I could get up here and talk nonstop for an hour or two is an amazing thing, because I didn't used to be able to do that. Okay. It's good practice. Get out there and try and help somebody. And like I said, the real solution is going to come in that way. And don't believe the lie that if you're dealing with a witch or a warlock or people involved in that, you're not really dealing with them. They're being condemned and being bewitched. They believe they've got power. They're being condemned. They're going to go to hell. That's it. And the temporary power and all that stuff that's around them, or the seeming blessings or luck that they have, is just the kingdom of darkness creating that menagerie and that illusion to deceive them and the people around them, and to deceive you into thinking that you're dealing with some human. You're not. And the only thing that is going to stop that is the power of the Holy Spirit, Jesus Christ. Period. That's it. Okay. Yeah, I'll put that up. in the live stream, Bora Bora. Thanks for mentioning that. I had 5 people go over there so far. Like I said, I don't have a. By the way, if you guys want me to make a sermon on that channel for you, it's not necessarily going to be about gang stalking. I try to keep that on this. That's more of a sermon channel for biblical doctrine, demonic stuff. I don't talk about gang stalking on that. It's kind of a distraction. I do that on this channel. But if you guys have a topic that's biblical that you want me to go into, put a request. I'll make a sermon for you. I'll do it. Okay. In fact, I've been kind of stagnant in that area because nobody has given me any ideas, and it's just some of the stuff that I know, I have a hard time. I don't put it out there because I don't necessarily know if God wants me to do it. It's like the stuff with the Antichrist and the abomination of desolation, and some of the speculative stuff that I get into. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about some of that stuff, but it's fun to get into that. I've got videos on the rapture and stuff like that. Look into that. But if you have anything you want me to make a sermon about, get on that Sermon Seeker. Like I said, I'll put the link up there. If nothing else, I can add it later, or I can put it in the comments, and I'll make a sermon for you, whatever it is. It's not going to be about gang stalking, but okay. Yeah, just me. Heidi said you just I appreciate that. And like I said, if you have something you want me to put up there and do a sermon about, I'd love to do that for you. Cookie says yes, that's the best way. I agree. Yeah. Okay. It's 3:00 here. Getting pretty late, you guys. Did I miss a question anywhere? If I did, I apologize. Charlie Wilson, welcome to the live stream. Okay. Steve the Pigeon says, I reckon we're powerful when we come together, which is why they've worked on isolating us early on. Oh, they do. They do that. If nothing else, the perps that come into the live stream, they keep us paranoid of each other and so on and so forth. It's a chance you got to take. But it is true. Isolate the target, traumatize them, isolate them, discredit them, gaslight them, right? Reprogram them, destroy them, right? Or use them or whatever, feed on them. I've talked about they're getting something out of this, and I don't exactly know what the spiritual dimension gets out of this stuff, but I do know this is that the fact that you're going to die is something that is unnatural. You were never technically, you're not supposed to you weren't necessarily created for that, and death entered in at the Garden of Eden, and it's an unnatural separation. The people who are, where the Bible talks about people being predestined to the adoption, that's not talking about people being predestined to be saved. That's talking about people in Christ, the foreordained method from the foundation of the world. It's a bad translation in Ephesians 1:4. It says before the foundation. That's actually from the foundation of the world, right? To be holy and blameless before God in love, and predestined to the adoption of children. And that's actually talking about getting a glorified body. So once you're saved, you are predestined to be conformed into the image of Christ. So that's defined in Romans 8:23, when it says we are waiting for the adoption, to wit, the redemption of the body. A lot of people, especially the Reformed crowd, they'll take that and they'll say, oh no, people were predestined to be saved. That's not true. Nobody is predestined to be saved. People are predestined to be glorified if they, by their own free moral choice, after God has reached out and taken the first step to draw them in and to process this whole thing, to give them a chance to make a choice to that. If they submit and receive Jesus and have faith and follow him, they're predestined to the adoption, predestined to be conformed to the image of Christ, right? So there's a lot of stuff. In fact, I go into that in the sermon channel a lot. That confuses a lot of people. People believe that there were certain individuals who were just preordained to be saved. And of course, you get into double predestination, that certain individuals were just passed over and it's a mystery, or that's ridiculous. You never want to appeal to a paradox when it comes to a biblical doctrine concerning salvation ever. Just Me Heidi says, Doc, do you believe Jesus is coming back soon? I do believe that. As I illustrated before, we have things that are happening. When you go back to the Garden of Eden, we have the sin in the garden, and then we move on out and to where Adam moved out of the garden, and he was told to be fruitful and multiply, so on and so forth. And then we had the Genesis 6 incident where we had the amalgamation or an attempt of the kingdom of darkness to corrupt the seed of mankind to prevent the Messiah from coming. And then we had the dispensation of all kinds of technology and different things like, witchcraft and sorcery and technology and all that stuff. And man became very evil on the earth, and there was all kinds of genetic tampering and weird things going on, and God flooded the world. And then after the flood, man was told again to go be fruitful and multiply, but they didn't learn. And then they built the ziggurat, the Tower of Babel, and resurrected that forbidden technology, and God disinherited the nations. Of course, he separated them up according to the sons of God. The principalities and powers were taskmasters. God started over with Abraham. When you talk about the purpose of God's election, that has to do, because people say, well, the Jews are elect. Oh, but what does that mean? Okay, it's the same thing that's in Romans chapter 9, that God's purpose of election has not failed. What was the purpose of God's election? To bring forth Jesus. So the vessels of noble purposes, the vessels of common purposes, has to do with the lineage chosen to bring forth that seed of the woman, which of course was Abraham, Isaac, right? Jacob, Ben Joseph, Ben David, Jesus, right? And when you get into the lineage of the Antichrist, it's the opposite. It's Ishmael and Esau. Okay. But, once you have that Tower of Babel, God divided up the nations. And then you had another problem with them. They failed miserably. The principalities and powers failed. That's when you get into Psalm 82, and they were judged. And it says, God rise up and take the nations. And so when Jesus came back, for example, when he crossed the Sea of Galilee and was met by the demoniac that said, what do you want to do with us? Don't throw us into the abyss. Let us go into the pigs. That guy that was possessed by the legion of demons. Well, they knew that eventually he was going to come, but they didn't know what he was going to do and when he was going to do it. Right. So, they were eventually, doomed in the sense that they knew they were going to end up in the Abuso, Tartarus, or the abyss. They didn't want to have it happen before their time. Right. And that just illustrates really who Jesus is and what he was doing. Like I said, when he sent out the 72, he was picking a fight. He was letting the kingdom of darkness know that he was taking back the world. Okay. And so then what? Well, then we had the crucifixion, and Christ, he outsmarted the kingdom of darkness. They tried to kill him. It was when Jesus was taken up on the temple or the high place, and the devil tempted him and said, well, if you're son of God, it says right here that the angels will lift you up. They won't let you dash your foot against a stone. Go ahead and jump off. And Jesus said, you don't tempt God. But what they were trying to do is they wanted to see, because they knew he could do miracles. They knew he was supernatural, but they didn't know. They didn't know if he could die. Is this guy just going to come back to life? What are we going to do? They tried to kill him. Okay, when Jesus was crucified, that was, they were literally trying to get rid of him, right? and they used one of his disciples to do it. They used Judas. Okay, they had a scheme, and obviously it didn't work. But at that point, Christ sealed the victory over the kingdom of darkness and took the keys away from them of death, hell, and the grave, and he blotted out all the the written code and the law that is against everyone who is under the penalty of the law of sin and death. And now he's the prophesied Melchizedek priest after the order of Melchizedek of the Zadok priests. Talk about that in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And then now the gospel is going out. What's that? Well, that's the good news. That's what gospel means, that anyone who believes in Jesus and follows after him is going to have eternal life, right? And then we have that age of grace, which I talked about. You have the three ages. This is the third age before the 1,000 years. And in the Dead Sea Scrolls, that's made up of 4 or 500 year increments with 10 jubilees. We're on the last jubilee now, 49 years left before the 1,000-year reign of Jesus. And how do we know we're getting close? Well, Israel's been regathered, right? You have the prophecies of Jeremiah, right? That they have a future and a hope. And then when they see the sign of the Son of Man, that's the rapture. Paul talks about that in 2 Thessalonians concerning the coming of our Lord and our gathering to him. That's the rapture. Let no one be troubled or deceived, that day shall not come, right, unless there's a falling away first, and the man of sin, the lawlessness, the Antichrist, will be revealed, right? So it kills the pre-tribulation rapture. So that's a false doctrine, by the way. I don't mean to get anybody angry, but that's the truth. And so 1 Thessalonians 4:16, 1 Corinthians 15:52, 2 Thessalonians 2:1, Revelations 14. They're all talking about the rapture. Matthew 24:31. When they see the sign of the Son of Man, they're going to weep as one weeps for their firstborn, and they're gonna see the nail piercings and everything, and that veil of Moses is going to be taken. All Israel will be saved if they believe they can be grafted back in, right? What's that mean? Well, they're gonna be gathered together over there because they were scattered. That was the prophecy that came down to Jeremiah in 605 before the Babylonian exile. And he said, well, you guys are going to be regathered again. You're not going to be wiped out like Sodom. And what do we have now? Well, we have a regathering of 1948, like I said, 2,484 years after 536 BC, exactly to 1948. And there they are. So we're right there. We are very, 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 very close to the return of Jesus. We can literally see that. We don't know when it's going to be. But we know it's going to be sometime possibly within the next 50 years, literally. So yeah, it could be sooner than that. And when you look over at the heads of the dragon, like I said, ancient Egypt, ancient Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Media, Persia, Greece, Rome, the Ottoman Empire. And then you see the revival of that after 1923, after it was taken down. You see the 8th coming out of the 7th, which is not very far away. And if you look at a map of all those regions, you're going to see all over in the cosmic geography of the Middle East, all those kingdoms, right? Look at a map of all those nations and the kingdoms. And then look at a map of the Muslim nations now, and you're going to see the final one. You're going to see where the Antichrist is coming out of the southern mountains of Turkey, right? You're going to see all that stuff, and you're going to literally be able to visually see the beast over there in the Middle East. And the false prophet and the beast, was a lot of times the beast will refer to the nations, the 10 horns that give themselves over to the little horn, but it also refers to that one that comes out of the sea of people and speaks blasphemous things against the God of Israel, right? And so, you see all that stuff over there, like I said, written all over that mosque up there on the Temple Mount. But it's all there. It's right in front of everybody. I mean, you couldn't miss it unless you're completely blind to this stuff. So it's not far away. Well, literally, we could see it with our eyeballs. Not far away. Okay. Pamela Bruin says they feed off fear. They absolutely do. Nicholas Boserman says, don't give in to fear. That's their way of controlling you. It is. But at the same time, it's a natural reaction. I mean, it's okay to be afraid. You need fear, but it has to be healthy fear. And they want to take you into that place where it's not. They want to take you into that place of post traumatic reaction to everything. I got it. I'll admit it right now. I'm paranoid, just like all target individuals. I've got a lot of triggers and stuff like that. And it's just a reality. And the thing that you don't want to do is let them shame you or call you out or try and take it out of context and get you to internalize that stuff, because it's part of the scientific methodology of gang stalking. Period. You know, once you're traumatized, you're scared, you're paranoid, you're in fight or flight. They can trigger you. They can create associations. They can emotionally manipulate you. They can reform you. They can program you. They can gaslight you, and then they just destroy you or do whatever they're going to do. But having that healthy fear is okay. And even if you're just paranoid, I mean, it happens to me all the time. It's like I said, I have a lot of triggers. I have things, but it is the way they control you. I think that, realizing what they're trying to do and following protocols and keeping yourself safe, and being in a realistic mind frame, in the sense that you're, when it comes to relationships or whatever, like I talked about earlier, yeah, you want to get it, everybody wants the good things. We all want a husband or a wife or whatever, or a nice, it's okay to want those things. You have to be realistic, and all those things are being used, by the way, to manipulate people. It's all cotton candy. Oh, we can have this, you can have that, you can have this. Learning to be content with the things that you have is really important. And it's not bad to want those things, but it's like I've said before, if you're a target and you're dealing with some intense harassment or whatever, well, what's realistic? If you can't have those things, if they're doing all that, then you might want to put some of that other stuff off on the back burner and just focus on what's important. And let this, it's just like a dance. Let God take the lead and just follow him, and just start doing that and focusing on what's important. And in the meantime, it's okay to ask for that stuff. It's okay. And if you're having problems with fear or whatever, put that up in the prayer list. In fact, I've talked about that before. If anybody wants me to lift up a prayer request, and I think I've gone through all the comments, nobody has done that yet, give me I'll put it out in the live stream, and everybody can pray for you. And everybody that hears the live stream later is going to pray for you. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. In fact, I'd like to put a prayer request up there for myself for fear and anxiety and, just hopelessness. Sometimes it gets very depressing as a target individual. Sometimes it can get very overwhelming. The fear of food tampering, or people breaking into your house, or attacking your personal property, or coming after your pets, or trying to ruin your job or whatever. It's all there. And we're commanded to pray for each other. A lot of people will get into fatalism. It's like I talked about Calvinism or compatibilism or determinism. God knows everything. He has asked you to pray. He wants you to become part of this. He wants people to interact with each other, and it's important to do that. Okay. All right. Well, it looks like Tam Tam has got some things that they're dealing with. So I guess we'll just do that now. We'll put a prayer request out for Tam Tam, that the things that you are dealing with, whatever they are, whatever kind of oppression is coming at you, that we rebuke that, and the people that are doing these things, that they would feel ashamed and convicted, and that God will work these things out for your benefit. And sometimes that's the way it is. Sometimes God uses these things, and he is allowing it because he is not intimidated by these things, and he can work it out, for your benefit. It's I often refer to the movie The Karate Kid. He thought he was working for that guy, learning, he wanted to learn martial arts. And so Mr. Miyagi's got him doing all these, exercises, and he didn't know it though. He thinks he's just doing all this work for free. until Miyagi takes him out there, and he finds out that he's actually learned quite a bit from these things that he didn't understand he was doing. And it's like that with God. His wisdom surpasses what we can comprehend and understand. And I believe that he is using this in the lives of targeted individuals. So we just pray for Tam Tam that those things would be realized. So sometimes we don't realize how God is working, and it just looks like we're being persecuted and tortured and harassed and condemned and doomed. And really, it's the opposite. And so we just pray for that. We'd also pray for protection and vindication and relief for all targeted individuals that are out there experiencing this. See, people would get caught, and that not only would they be brought to light, but that if they have damaged property or taken things or whatever the laws of the land are that have been established, that they would receive compensation for that. We pray in the mighty name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Okay. Well, guys, it's getting pretty late, and I think we should probably end the live stream now. But I'd like to thank everybody for participating. I'd like to thank everyone for being mature and being honest. And like I said, if you guys have a sermon you want me to do in the other channel, Sermon Seeker, go in there, subscribe, share, put your request up. I don't do gang stalking sermons. I do talk about demonic oppression, witchcraft, all those things, doctrinal stuff, things that have to do with just general, biblical doctrine or whatever. Whatever you have for a question up there, as long as that's to do with Bible stuff, we can do that. Or addictions or whatever that plays into that. And for the channel, of course, I'll do sermons about not sermons, but videos about gang stalking and about things targeted individuals deal with. Put your question in the comments. I try to get to all of them. I think I do. Every now and again, I don't get notifications, and I apologize. It'll be like 2 months, and I'll be going through the comments. I'll be like, oh, I didn't even see that one. And there's also that Gemini technology that's out there that deleting people's comments. So it's not me. If you put something in there that's hostile or whatever or rude, I will delete it if I see it. But there's the Gemini AI that's going through YouTube and doing that. So a lot of people will get a hold of me and say, why are my comments disappearing? It's not me. It's that Gemini AI that's doing that. I finally figured that out. And I'd like to thank everybody for your prayers. I'd like to thank everybody who helps support me and the channel. The link is always in the description. Guys, God bless. Be good to yourselves. Be safe.